Welcome to Art Talk with April, Season 2. I'm April Harris of Inked April, located in Birmingham, Alabama. This season we'll be talking with new artists and professional expert artists. So I hope you enjoy it. Let's get started. Welcome, everyone, to Art Talk with April. Today, we have a very talented Jenny Cash. She's an artist here in the Hoover area. And Jenny, how did you get started doing art?
Well, when my oldest daughter was about 15, I took an art class with a local artist, and I went once a week. And it just kind of took, and that was almost 20 years ago. It just kind of took off from there. And I found that it kind of filled my soul. You know, the time that I was there, that's all I thought about. I was thinking, how can I make this? How can I paint this? And I just kept on. And that's kind of how it all started. I didn't think about that in high school or college. I have a nursing degree and a culinary degree. But art has been a big part of my life for a long time. And that's kind of how it started.
Yeah, that is so interesting. I get a lot of the stories of I was doing this when I was a kid,
Mm-hmm.
and it's interesting that what spurred you to take a class?
Well, both my children, my daughter and son, were in school, and
Yeah.
I was a stay-at-home mom at the time. And I just loved art. I loved looking at beautiful paintings in a
Mm.
museum. I'm kind of a nerdy museum person. I could spend the entire day there. And I thought, well, maybe I ought to just try it. I've always liked to cook, which is another form of art. And I thought, well, I'm just going to try it. And I'm telling you, after that first lesson, I was hooked. I was hooked. I started out in oils, which I love, and I still paint with oils some. But I started, and I'm self-taught, so I've taken some classes from different artists and workshops, and it just feels like the more I feed it into myself, the more I want to paint or create or do a collage, or I just couldn't quit. I
Yeah.
like chocolate. I couldn't quit eating it, so I couldn't quit painting.
Yeah. I mean, I feel the exact same way.
Mhm.
For me, it's such an outlet, especially
Yes.
as a mom. Um, not being able to really go out and do other things necessarily as regular as I could, be like, okay, kids, come in here, we're going to paint.
Absolutely.
And then that's our crazy paint desk over
I love it.
there.
I
And
love it.
I just leave stuff out and they'll come in here. Well, specifically, my daughter will come in here and just start. She's like 2.5, and she'll just come in here and I'll be like, Carol, what are you doing
Yeah.
now?
But I love it because it feeds a creativity in a child. And I've read different things that say you never should lose that childlike feeling in your mind and your heart. And
Yeah.
to me, sometimes when I paint, that's what I feel. It's a giddiness, as something comes out onto a canvas or paper or wood or whatever I'm using that day. And then I'm finished and I think, how did I do that? It's a great feeling
Yeah.
to get something out of me like that. And it is a great outlet for lots of things, lots of reasons.
Sure. So, like, okay, so you started taking classes in oils, which, holy cow, that's a big class.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm not very patient. So they, take a long time to dry. And I kind of gave them up for a while because I
Yeah.
love acrylics. I mean, acrylics are off the charts for me because I can do a painting in a short amount of time. It's dry. I can varnish it and have it ready in about 24 hours.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oils about a week before I can even varnish it because I want them really dry because I've made that mistake of trying to varnish and then it's like, oh well, maybe I'll start over.
Oh, man.
Acrylics are very forgiving for me. An oil painter that does it all the time, they may say the same thing, but for me, they're very forgiving. Um, but yeah, I started from there and then painted here and there, and then about about 6 or 7 years ago, we had a really difficult year in our family. A lot of loss, a lot of difficult things, and I
Mm.
that was my outlet. And I painted every day for hours and hours. And I
Wow.
thought, because you don't have to think
Mm.
about anything but what is on that canvas.
Mm.
And it helped me heal from all the things that had gone on. And then I started showing my work, and it just,
That's
and
amazing to me because, you know, how did you, okay, so you came to this point where you really like acrylics,
Mhm.
um, which I love your art and your vision as well. What made you come to that subject matter and that way of painting, do you think?
Well, I really love Vincent van Gogh. He
Yeah.
was a very troubled soul, but what came out of him was beautiful to
Mm.
me. The colors, color really speaks to me. Bright, happy,
Uh,
joyful colors. And I've tried to paint neutral colors. I can't do it. I love them for someone else, but for me, because I want to put something positive and happy into the world. We live in a world that it's not always positive and happy.
oh, sure.
So a lot of times when I'm at an art show and someone comes into my tent, they're like, "This is so happy." Well, I don't care if you buy something else or not.
Yeah.
You've had a good reaction to something that might have touched you for that day. And I feel like that's what art should do. It should evoke some kind of emotion, but my emotion I want you to feel is positive and
Yeah.
joyful and energetic. And that's kind of what happened, April, when all these things happened in my family. I
Mm.
wasn't positive and I was in a dark space. And I just thought, if I can move forward and make myself feel better, and then it makes other people feel better. And I
Yeah.
think that's something good. I feel like, so when I look at a Van Gogh painting, his later works, he started very dark. His later works, they like I when I first saw one of his in person, I cried. I couldn't help it because I thought, this painting is still so beautiful, and it's so old, and it was at the Musée d'Orsay in Paris. And my husband was like, "What is wrong with you?" I said, "I'm having a moment." It was just, and so for me, I'm an emotional person, and I feel like I want people to react in a good way to what I put out into the world. And that's kind of how I got there, from a dark place to a happy place.
Yeah.
And I love to paint with color. That's my thing. I mean,
Yeah, and I would say you were right on track if that's what you're trying to do, because I mean, that is amazing. Yeah, I think that your work really speaks to that. And even like your brushstrokes and the way that you're painting it is kind of cheerful, like to me, something about it is just like really energetic and happy.
well, and I appreciate that because that's what I want people to feel,
Yeah.
having something good to take home in their heart. Once you purchase something for your home or you've seen it, that makes me feel good. It makes me feel like I'm on the right track. And
Absolutely.
um, if you could see all the paint tubes I have downstairs, so it's just not a studio, it's quite ridiculous. And I love it's my favorite art supply is paint. I'll either order. I love to go to Alabama Art Supply, and
Yeah.
9 times out of 10, that is all I buy is tubes of paint because they're so pretty. And I think,
Yeah,
oh,
you can never have enough. Oh,
no, no, it's kind of like my shoe obsession.
yeah,
Tubes
yeah.
of paint and shoes, and I'm good.
Oh, that's funny. Oh, you can make a sign like that says that.
I should. Okay, that gives me an idea. I can do that. I can do that.
That would be fun.
Yeah. But it just, to me, I mean, I've seen some art, at some shows before I started showing that really I didn't have a good response to it. And that's fine, as far as, but that's not what I want to show to people. I like people.
Mhm.
I like to talk to people. I like to be kind and elevate people, spread some love and kindness to people, all kind of people, not just people who look like me, but all kind of people.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
so I hope that's what my work does.
Yeah.
It makes someone feel good.
Yeah. Oh,
So,
that's amazing. And I feel like, you know, a lot of times I think what comes through us as artists, and we really, need ourselves, is kind of like what other people are needing too,
Absolutely.
And so you started doing these paintings and everything, and you had your time where things were bad, and you really got deep down into it, right? You started making a lot. How did you decide to start selling at shows?
Well, I have a really good friend who's an artist. Her name is Gil Turner. And she came to my house one day, and I can't remember what it was I was painting, but I had so much in my studio. And she said, I think you need to show your work. And I was scared to, because, when you put yourself out there, you don't always get accepted. People tend to say things that I would never say, that can be very hurtful. So that fear of rejection was there, and she just kept encouraging me. And there was a little place in Hoover. It's called On a Shoestring, which is where the little caboose is. And they were doing a show there the weekend of the Bluff Park Art Show. It's called Park and Crest.
Oh, okay.
And I thought, okay, well, there'll be a lot of traffic here. I'll just try it. And I told Gil, I said, I'm just going to try it. Well, it was great. I sold lots of pieces. I met a lot of people. I made lots of connections. And that was my very first show. And since then, I just love it. I love it. I love to go to different places, meet people. Sometimes I'll sell a lot of things. Sometimes I don't. But I've made connections with people. And you don't know, from a show, you might get some commission work down the line,
Sure.
So I kind of look at it as, my husband, the line of work he's in, he has to do a lot of trade shows. So I see it as kind of a trade show. You're showing who you are. You're talking with people. You're making a connection. You're doing something positive, hopefully for people. And if, if they don't appreciate it, that's okay. That's fine. You've gotten to see the creative process that comes out of my head and my heart. And I think that's important too.
Yeah.
Somebody asked me, I guess at the last show I did in the spring, what kind of art is this? And I said, well, it's art from the heart. It's from my heart. And I don't know how I would categorize what I do, because I can't do the same thing every day. I like to do different things, and I like to evolve and try something new, learn something, watch a YouTube video about how to use a certain medium, or, and I'm a learner. I'm a lifetime learner. So I think that's good as I get a little older, to help my brain function well. But I'm always trying to do something different and new. And
oh, that's so fun.
It is.
I think that's one thing too that, personally, so I went to school for art and everything. And it kind of made me feel like I needed to choose like a style and a medium and a subject. And I had to choose something, know. And then that just narrowed it down to a place where it wasn't necessarily fun anymore,
And I think it's important. I think I told you this earlier. It's important as we move along in life to evolve as a human being. And I feel like our art should do that too. Because if you look at a lot of the old masters, which I don't like all of them, if they didn't use color, they're not my favorite. Like you look at Matisse, he changed a lot as he got older in life. His art changed. Van Gogh's paintings were very dark when he first began. And then he changed. I had the great fortune to go to his museum in Amsterdam several years ago, and see it's very different than when he first started. So, and I don't want to be laser focused. Because I want to do something that I want to do, and that's something that I think is important. Is, as artists, we don't have to compromise for anybody else. We need to do what we want to do, not because somebody critiques us in a way or says, "Hey, I don't really like what you're doing." That's fine. I like what I'm doing. And if it's something that I don't like, then it's not going to come out and be beautiful to me. For me, I'm speaking for myself. If I try to do something that someone's trying to tell me, you're not following a rule or you're not doing this, okay, but I still like what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I'm my worst critic. I mean, if it's not something that I would want in my home, I'm not going to put it into the world. I'm just not.
Yeah.
And but I think for all of us, it's important to do what comes from our heart, because then it's rich and beautiful and speaks to your audience. Whether you want to have it in your home or not, it's telling you something about what came from me. And that's what I love, about, and that's what's fun too, to talk about other artists. Why did you paint this? Why did you create this?
It's always interesting to know,
It is. And not necessarily a process, but what was in your head when you put that out into the world. And it encourages me, as well, and hopefully other artists as well. So, and that's what's been nice about listening to your podcast. The other artists that are here, it's kind of the same thing. You got to do what is true to you.
Yeah. And that's so hard to do, though. In some circumstances, there's lots of pressure to be a certain way and to do things a certain way. And, I just had an interview with another artist, and she was saying something about she does very abstract work. And then getting a lot of requests for all kinds of things that she personally wouldn't, necessarily, like it doesn't even have anything to do with how she makes art.
Right.
And one of the things about her art was that it was the process of it that was so important to her. And so it was like the movements that she would make in making her art. Well, you can't do that with just anything, it's not going to be the same. And so, have you had issues where people ask for things that you wouldn't, you know what I mean?
Yes. And I'm honest, and I'll tell them, I can't do that. I will paint something for you, but it has to be me. It has to come from me. And if they say, well, that's okay, that's all right. That's okay, because I don't think that we need to compromise on who we are as an artist. If this is your thing, how you paint, how you create, do it. And at some point, your audience is going to find you. Your collector is going to find you. And I think that's important. Think about the Impressionists. They were very different. And I'm not an art major, but I love.
Oh yeah, people said that they were just awful and terrible, and it was like they weren't finished and they were ugly, Yes.
And look at the beautiful pieces that they created, because they went against the norm. And I love that about that time and those great creators of art, that they did what they wanted to do.
Yeah, they did.
And didn't listen to society, and didn't really want to label. I'm not a label person about anything, about people or anything. You're a human being. That's it.
Yeah.
But I think that's what intrigues me so much about all this. Do what's important to you. Do what comes from your heart, and don't compromise yourself for anything, because then it's not going to be your best work. It's not going to be my best work. And that's what I think is important for all of us, and in our daily life too. Don't compromise. Do what's important to you, and the world will see you as somebody different, in my mind, and good and positive. So that's just kind of where I am in life. And being in my 60s too, things, you don't really care about a lot of things sometimes, what people say or how they feel. Not that I'm a rude person, but I am who I am. I kind of came to mind. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it is. I am who I am, So
that's wonderful.
I think that helps too. You get a little experience in life, and it makes you see that things are really okay. And I'm trugging along and painting as much as I can. I've got a few things coming up, so I'm trying to get finished. And I like to do that before a show or event, and have like 2 or 3 days where I don't have to think about anything but.
Oh, that's good.
Sit down. So I'm pretty close. I've got something coming up in a couple of weeks, so I'm almost finished.
Yeah. Let's say you've got a show coming up, and how do you prepare for that? Like, do you have like a certain number of pieces that you have to, that you know fills out your booth, or how do you go about doing that?
So I try to paint all sizes because I want some little things and some big things. So what I try to do, I know how the sizes of my tent, and I will measure out in my garage and lay them on a kind of on the wall. I don't put the wall out, but I measure it out and I lay the pieces down.
Yeah.
And depending on how many days the show is, I might add some more. But I kind of have an idea of the bigger pieces that I need to fill up a tent. And I try to set it up almost like a gallery. Try to have a little bit of everything in there. Some people like to do a continuous look. Well, I don't like that anyway. So, but it depends on the show. Sometimes I'll group all my landscapes together, or all my faces together, or all my florals. Yeah. Sometimes I just put it all out there, kind of like a gallery. So, but that's usually what I do. I will lay my pieces down in that. It's supposed to be a 10 by 10 rectangle, but it's not quite that because you don't really have that much room. And then I think, okay, and then kind of go from there. And so, needless to say, my downstairs is quite full of things right now, getting ready for shows, And then I try to think about where I'm going to be, what they might like, more landscapes, more faces, more some collage work. I sold several collage pieces at Magic City Art Connection this year.
Oh, wonderful.
Which was fun. And because it's nice to see something that's kind of out of the box for me go to someone's home. So that was fun to do that. And then I never feel like I have done enough. My husband's like, you need to quit. I don't know if you feel like that, but I feel like I don't have enough.
Yeah.
I always have enough, but I don't ever feel like that. So, but I don't like a lot of empty space on the walls in my booth. I want them to look until the show starts. Then I want them all empty because I want everybody to get something. But that's kind of how I prepare, just kind of based on the size. And
about how many shows do you do, like a year, would you say?
Well, this year I'm not doing quite as many because we're traveling a lot in the fall, but I usually do anywhere from maybe 3 to 4 each in the spring and the fall. I don't really do anything in the summer because there's not a lot here, and we would have to travel pretty far. That's in my future where I want to do some things in the summer. But usually 3 to 4 in the spring and 3 to 4 in the fall.
Yeah.
And that keeps me pretty busy.
Yeah, I bet.
Which is nice. I like it. I like to paint for a show. It's fun. You're thinking, okay, I need to do this, and this will look good beside this. And, but it's all about color. As long as I get my colors the way I want them, I could paint all day.
Yeah. How do you go about, like, do you have any particular kind of way that you like get the art there and set up and everything?
Yeah, well, my husband has a big car and we get it in there very carefully. Yeah. We have rented a trailer before, but that's kind of a hassle. If I can get and I've learned through experience, I don't need to take a lot of extra things for my booth. I try to keep it pretty simple because I want the focus to be on my art, It depends. If it's a bigger show, though, sometimes we have to rent a trailer. But Mike has a big car. My husband has a big car. And so we just get it in there and fingers crossed that nothing gets scratched up or anything before we get there. So.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Oh, that's fun. That's one of those things, like, I haven't actually done a show.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where I'm like, oh, I don't know how do you even get started? What do you do? How do you get it all together? That kind of thing.
Well, you ask other artists. That's what I did. Yeah. So my first show, I bought a tent, and I asked my friend Gil, because she had been doing this for quite some time, and I said, how do you do it? And she said, this is what you need. This is what you need. And then at shows, I look at other artists. We talk about how you set your tent up, or and I look and say, well, would that work? I mean, like, it was hysterical one time because you have to have weights, for your tent because they'll blow away.
Yeah.
And my husband, he talked to one of my neighbors at the show and looked at how he did. So he made me some weights with PVC pipe and concrete, and that's what we put on our tent, and it works.
Yeah.
Not very noticeable, which is nice too. So, and we kind of have a system now how to get that tent up, because let me tell you, you might need some marriage counseling first time to put that tent up. But now we have a system to get it up, and it's much easier for us. So we've been doing it for a while now, but he's my tent carrier and weight carrier, and he used to, I shouldn't tell this about him, but he used to get a level out to make sure all the paintings were level. And I'm like, honey, the wind is going to blow. It's never going to be.
Yeah.
But we still laugh about that. But it really is fun. You meet a lot of people. You get to talk to a lot of artists, kind of find out their process and talk about art. And, it's kind of like a really cool group to be a part of, these shows, and people are the artists are very encouraging and funny and very welcoming. And to me, it's really, it's fun to do. It's really fun, to get out of your comfort zone and do something.
Oh, sure. Do you have like any strategy as far as like, so one of the things that I've noticed when I go to shows all the time, and I'll be looking at people's booths and be like, okay, I see what they're doing. But sometimes there's people who, they sit in their booth in a chair. Some people will be painting or making something at their booth. Or I've even seen where artists stand outside of their booth. Like they're just like not like trying to not scare people away or something. What do you think about that?
Well, I try to be because I know when I shop, I want someone to acknowledge me. And if I need help, I'll come to you. That's just kind of my personality. And that's kind of what I do. I have an opening in the back wall, and I usually sit back there and I speak to everyone that goes by that I can. Yeah. And when they come into my tent, I will speak to them and say, hey, if you need any help or have questions, I'm right here. Yeah. Because I want someone to come in and really look. I want someone to look and think, because that's what I like to do. Yeah. I like to think about it. Where would this go, or what is speaking to me? I like that color. I like that. I like those florals. I like this landscape. And they'll ask sometimes, why did you paint this? Some people just want to talk to me about why I painted it, which is fine too. Yeah. I like that too. But I kind of let someone browse. I try to be respectful of them, because I don't want to scare somebody away. I don't want to feel like they're pressured to purchase something. Enjoy what you're seeing, and if you love it, you can have it.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my strategy. Other people are different, and that's fine,
Yeah. Like, have you heard other artists talking about the different ways that they like sit in their tent and do stuff? Because I just thought it was the strangest thing to see artists standing outside of the tent.
Yeah.
Like away from the tent, almost like watching it from afar.
Well, I haven't really talked to anyone but I watch people at a show. And I kind of like my setup. I'm there if you need me.
Yeah.
Some people, I'm not that pressure salesman. I'm not that person.
Yeah.
Plus, I think if you want to talk to me, you need to get to know me, and if I'm pressuring you to buy something, how are you going to get to know me? I'm going to scare you away. So, but I do watch people, and some people do. They walk away, and then your customer walks in, and they're like, well, where's so-and-so? Well, they're down there talking to somebody else, which is fine. But I like to kind of sit at the back and I'm just like, come in, look around. If you need me, I'm right here. I'll talk to you about anything. So that's my strategy. But I do watch people. I don't ask them, but I watch. I think,
it is so fun to watch.
It is.
That's one of my favorite things about going to shows and looking around. I mean, I love art, and I love, supporting other artists and all of that. But at the same time, I'm looking at what they're doing, like how they are and their setup. And, some people will have walls, and some people have it on tables, and just the way that they handle it when someone comes towards their booth or whatever.
Right.
Like,
well, I try to be welcoming, just like if you were to come to my home.
Yeah.
I want you to come in, enjoy my home, enjoy being with me, my family, whoever's here. That's kind of my approach. You
Yeah.
come in and look around. I'm here. Enjoy what you see. If you have questions, I'm right here. That's how when I shop, that's how I like to shop. I
Oh,
want
yeah.
to think about what I'm doing. And so hopefully people enjoy it. Hopefully people
Yeah, I
enjoy it.
feel like that's kind of probably what I would do too. I kind of think of it as like a mini store.
Yes.
And I've actually worked in retail when I was young and in college and stuff like that. And so I was just like, hi, let me know if you need help with anything.
Yeah.
I
That's me.
mean, but
That's me too.
I've gone into booths where the artists don't really speak to you or say anything, and they're just like sitting there, and you're like, okay, I'm
Yeah.
over here. I don't know if you don't want to be messed with right now or what.
I've done that too. I just want people to feel comfortable. I guess that's the bottom line. I feel like one of my gifts is hospitality because I like people. And I want you to feel comfortable when you come in and look at what I've created. And if it will fit in your home, that is fantastic. And if not, that's fantastic too. We've spent some time together. We've made a connection. Maybe down the road you want to call me and say, hey, you remember that painting that I looked at? Do you still have it? Or could you do something similar for me? And that's happened before, which I love, So I just want people to feel comfortable, I think that's a good thing. And but yeah, I try to watch and you get ideas from other people on how to set up your booth as well.
Yeah.
And for me, the easiest thing is the best thing for me, the easiest way. Because, a lot of people, they have to, especially jewelers, they have to bring a lot of things. And I just don't want to do that. I want something easy and quick and make it look pretty and pleasing to me and to my audience. So, just something easy.
I feel like that's one of those things that I would get a little carried away with, like setting up the booth, like tablecloths and decorations and stuff like that. And then eventually be like, okay, I can't bring all that stuff. Nobody cares. They're not looking at that. They're wanting to pay attention to what you're actually selling. So.
And I did that when I first started. I just took lots of stuff. That's why we had to have that trailer. And I thought, I just don't want to, sometimes simple is best. And my focus, I want my booth to be pretty, but I want my focus to be on my work. But not on that. I want you to come in and experience what I experience. And that's the beauty of color and creating and, looking at something that makes you have a good reaction, a good emotional reaction to it. So hopefully I've done that. You can come see me. I have a couple shows coming up, so you come find me. I would love to meet you in person.
So what shows do you have coming up?
So on September the 8th and the 9th, I'm doing a little pop-up at a beautiful boutique in Cahaba Heights called Ryan Reeve. She's a friend of mine and said, could you do a little pop-up here? So I've got lots and lots of small pieces. I guess I could call it my little show. And then I'm doing another show in Johns Creek in October. And then I'm doing Moss Rock Festival in November. So I'll be very close to my home, which is exciting. Yeah. And that's a fun show. I love the artists that are there. The Kunzmans run that show. They own that show, and they're wonderful to work with. Everyone that, I've just had a great experience with that in Magic City Art Connection here in town. And so that's my shows. And then I have some gallery work, some things at the Blue Frog in Montevallo. Okay. And then I have in Spanish Fort, Alabama, I have representation at Stewart Heath Gallery, and I'm teaching some classes there. So, if someone wants to come down there and do classes with me and look at my work, I'm looking forward to that. So that's going to be fun. In September and October. Yeah, it is fun because you create together too. So that's going to be a really fun weekend, the weekends that I do that. Yeah. But so we're traveling a lot and doing lots of family things. So I'm not doing as many shows in the fall, but plan to get back into it in the spring. That's on my list this week, is to apply for some shows.
Yeah.
And
have you ever done the like the Fairhope show?
I have.
Yeah.
I did that a couple times, and then done Bluff Park.
Yeah.
I was trying to think some other things. Done some shows in Nashville. I want to go. My goal is to kind of go out west somewhere. I really want to get to that, maybe Santa Fe or or somewhere in that New Mexico, and then maybe up north. We have some good friends that live in Michigan, so maybe somewhere in there, just for the adventure, to see, what might work. It's fun. I'm happy about that.
I am too. I just love it so much, and I love talking to other people who really love it too, and that's awesome. I love hearing all about your journey.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for talking to me today.
Well, thank you, April, so much. It's been a pleasure and an honor to be part of this podcast. And hopefully, when people hear, they'll be encouraged to step out of their comfort zone and be true to themselves and create, because it's really good for us.
Yeah. Taking that first step. That's all you have to do.
That's right.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Art Talk with April. For more information on this episode, join the Facebook group, The Art Lounge. Please subscribe and share. See you next Tuesday. Hope you have a great week.